climbed in through the window. I didn't think I would escape. I was just frozen, helpless. Nothing I could do.
That property is a pretty remote property. It's several acres.
I could hear his footsteps, and they were getting closer. The evil in his eyes I'd never seen before.
Potential suspects were whittled down.
Hello guys, welcome to Talking News. We just finished part 2. Now we are working on part 3 of On the Stand. So this is covering the Kelsey Berreth story. And they snuck pretty much KK into, well, her time to take the stand. And boy, did she share a romantic story. Let's just say that. So this is going to be a very interesting part 3 to understand. First, let's get to know who she is. So Crystal goes by Crystal Lee. She's no longer Kenny, she says. And she is an Idaho nurse that was involved with a guy that seemed to have her wrapped around his finger. You know, at first I couldn't find any evidence where they were really seeing each other, but now that she's taken a stand, this makes sense as to why, and we're going to go over that. It seems that Patrick Frazee likes to play mental games with his women, so this is true. And for some reason, he found some very successful women, minus one of them. Kelsey Berreth was a pilot. Crystal's a nurse. These are supposed to be very strong, independent women, yet they were easily manipulated by Patrick Frazee. I know you're going, what the heck, Debbie, because you were so against Crystal. Well, I have to tell you, I'm still not happy with her. She's weak, but it makes sense that he preyed on somebody that's weak like that and was able to puppeteer her, basically. So let's go over what she had to say on the stand. So what we're finding out is, and this was devastating, I had trouble even going over this last night. According to Crystal Lee Kenny, she informed us that Kelsey Berreth was aware of what was happening to her and that she had pleaded with Patrick Frazee to please stop. And we'll read more about that or talk more about that later, but we're going to go over the fact that prosecutors and the defense really went hard for 2 different reasons on Crystal Lee. For prosecutors, she is a star witness. She's basically the only thing they have to take Patrick Frazee and keep him behind bars. Whereas for defense, she is their only hope that they can create a window and a way out by taking her words and saying that she twists them to manipulate. So at this point, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Patrick Frazee was the mastermind and the man that ultimately took the life of this young pilot. So Crystal Lee said that she no longer goes by her former married name of Kenny. Took her place on the stand Wednesday as a star witness against Frazee. Crystal Lee Kenny is saying that told authorities that he did confess to everything and told her exactly what he'd done. And her role in all this was to help him cover it up. So it's at this point that she starts to tell the story and the final moments of Kelsey Berreth. Through sobbing and hard to understand at times testimony, Lee relayed the final words that Frazee said his fiancée spoke while he beat her to death. According to Kenny, this was at the Woodland Park condo that she lived while their baby lay in a different room. So this is the same man that said that he was concerned about abuse. It was hours and hours of testimony by Lee, who never looked at Frazee during the hearing, not once is what we're hearing. Instead, staring straight ahead as she choked up and dabbed her face with tissues. So according to Lee, how did Frazee get her to agree to do such a heinous thing? She says to win her loyalty, Frazee, 33, claimed Berreth was an abusive mother to Frazee's toddler. And for a time, Lee says she actually believed him. So before calling her on Thanksgiving and telling her she had a mess to clean up, Frazee asked her 3 times to take Berreth out on his behalf, and she told the jury. According to Crystal, the first time he demanded that she poison Berreth with a cup of coffee laced with Ambien and Valium, where Crystal Lee Kenny says she did go to Kelsey Berreth's condo, knock on the door, and hand her the coffee, but she says she did not spike it. According to Crystal's testimony, she said she wanted to meet Berreth for herself and decide what kind of person she was. Kenny described Berreth as dismissive in that meeting. She said Berreth accepted the coffee, but she didn't see her take a drink. Remember, guys, we were talking about this before we're going off for a minute, that if you had some stranger bring you a coffee, most likely you're not going to take a sip of that drink, are you? I mean, you're going to try to look polite, but in the end, that coffee's going down the sink, right? Yeah. So we never will know if there was anything in that coffee drink. Anyways, continuing on. According to Kenny, she said the coffee was safe. She hadn't mixed anything in it that might be harmful. Okay, so that's kind of scary. I don't know if this is word for word, but if we go back over this, she hadn't mixed anything that might be harmful. So did she mix something in it? So did she put cream in it or something? It come from Starbucks. Usually they prepare everything that goes in it, so that kind of doesn't make sense to me. Now remember when we went over the affidavits, when she didn't complete poisoning Berreth, she said that he wasn't all that angry, but here it's a different story. According to Kenny, she told the court Wednesday when Frazee found out that she failed to poison Berreth, he lost it. So in another incident, Kenny said she met Frazee in a parking lot of a Walmart in Woodland Park to discuss plans. So this should be for the second attempt. The two went back to Frazee's house and he grabbed a pipe from a flatbed trailer. She remembers him saying, "It's not that hard," and telling her to hit Berreth on the back of the head and to put her in a garbage can, then leave. If you guys remember, on the affidavits, it stated why he wanted her to hit her in the back of the head, and that was to prevent bleeding. According to Crystal, he told her that he was monitoring her activity. Crystal said she then did drive the pipe over to Berreth's house, but when she heard the dogs barking, she took it back to Frazee, telling him there were police driving around. So this story is a little bit different than what we learned in the beginning. It's at that point that Kenny told the court Wednesday that she had no intentions of hurting Berreth. She also mentioned talking to a friend, Melinda, about what was going on. Kenny said she told Melinda that she didn't want to be involved. Well, this is where defense is probably going to have a ball with this. Then why did she make so many trips to Woodland Park if she didn't want to be involved, right? She also mentioned talking to a friend, Melinda, about what was going on. Sorry, lost my spot, guys, there. Sorry about that. Kenny said during the trip, she stayed with Frazee and actually babysat his daughter. She says she never noticed bruises or injuries on the little girl, and although she didn't say anything about about it to Frazee began to doubt him. So her third trip, or it's her third trip to take an attempt on Berreth's life, to Colorado, Kenny said that she told Frazee she couldn't do it. I didn't want him in trouble because he was a good dad. I just wanted it to go away. Leave it alone, end quote, she told the court. She said, quote, I didn't know about it because if something did happen to her, I knew about it, end quote. Kenny began to cry. She says she knew it was wrong, but she didn't know what to do. So I want to say something in between that, guys. She knew it was wrong, but didn't know what to do. So the truth of the matter is, she knew it was wrong, but she would do anything to be with him. I bet you the reason why she's up here, what I'm hearing her talk about today, she's regretting everything she did. She's realizing that she was in a trance. And she cannot believe that she stooped so low as to do these things. And neither can I. So on Thanksgiving Day, Kenny said she was in Idaho when she received a call from Patrick Frazee. She recalled him saying, quote, you have a mess to clean up, end quote. He told her to pick up cleaning supplies and shoe covers and drive to Berreth's house. She says she made the 12-hour drive and remembers Frazee calling along the way to make sure that she was still on the way. So according to her testimony, she said he told her that there was a lot of residue to clean up, most of it in the living room and possibly a tooth in a vent. So it sounds like he scoped that area, called her down, and he is watching her. He's going to watch her, make sure that she did a good job because he likes the control. According to Crystal, he left the keys by the gate of his 35-acre ranch. According to Kenny, she said that she was afraid for her own life, and she said she thought Frazee would find out if she called the police and get back at her in some way. In here, she says that most famous quote that she's known for saying, upon arriving to Berreth's home, Kenny described finding a, quote, horrific scene, end quote. Then the second most famous quote was, there was blood everywhere, all over the living room, kitchen, even the daughter's stuffed animals. She talked about finding a tooth. I sure hope that Cheryl Berreth was not in there to hear this kind of stuff. So according to Kenny, she told the court that the mess was so extensive, she had to throw away a lot of items. Now this part that we're going to go over, I don't believe, but I need to believe it for at least some type of justice for Kelsey Berreth. So still, although Kenny said she would work to clean up the residue for hours, I wish they would have put some dates and times in here. That's kind of aggravating to get an article like this and they don't have any dates or times. They're getting lazy in their writing, aren't they? As you know, guys, I mix what I know, if I know it's fact, into this as well. So to when they leave out, say, more information about whatever happened, I'll add to it. So anyways, she said that she intentionally left some residue behind. She says she wanted the police to know that the case was more than just a disappearance. Kenny says she began to cry on the stand after sharing that information. But a lot of us, let's talk about that a moment as well, kind of doubt that she left anything behind. Because why wait until it got to this point when she could have stopped it before it happened? She had many chances to prevent this, but she chose not to. But anyway, she described Kelsey's death to the court, saying Frazee had blindfolded his fiance and asked her to guess the scent of candles he was holding. Instead, Kenny said he beat Berreth with a bat. So at that point, that's where they end court that day for Wednesday, and they expect the trial to last 3 weeks. So we're going into the second week now, so probably next week and then into the next week a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to go over what she said before she talked about all this. And this is how she met Patrick Frazee. We've all been waiting for that, right? We've all been waiting for that moment of what their relationship was. And let me tell you guys, the reason why we couldn't prove that she was a mistress or a girlfriend is because there was no proof. So according to her testimony, her romance with Patrick Frazee began back in 2006 at a dance in Lake George, west of Colorado Springs. She said, this is where she met him and fell in love with him that night. He seemed, from the conversation that we had that night, he was pretty admirable and had his act together and seemed like a pretty good dude, end quote. While she testified, still, she was staring straight ahead and never looked at him. But Frazee was busy writing down and jotting notes throughout the whole testimony. He sat back in a chair at the defense table wearing a white striped button-up shirt open at the collar. Which, guys, I want to talk about this too. So remember, I told you he's the type of guy that he's not going to give up. Even behind bars, he feels like he has to take her down. She backstabbed him, and his hate is so deep, he can't let it go. I knew when I was going over this case, when I started putting two and two together, that this is the type of guy he was. Is he manipulative and evil? Yes, he is. But should Crystal Lee get off completely? Absolutely not. But anyways, let's continue. So according to what this journalist wrote, was during the period they dated, she traveled from Idaho to Colorado to visit him at least 10 times. So I'm saying at least. He said 10 times. But I'm saying at least. But she said after the 10 times of visiting him, she would go days without hearing from him when she returned to Idaho. And this led to the breakup of the two in 2007. So Crystal described a moment afterward where Frazee threatened to drive up and kill a dog that she had gotten from him, so telling her that the previous owner was demanding the dog back unless he paid for it. So let's not forget that I did show you guys, I was one of the first ones that found Patrick Frazee's, YouTube, where he had some videos uploaded where he trained these border collies. So this actually sparked some concern of whether or not he was abusive to animals as well. So continuing on, in 2015, she struck up a correspondence with Frazee after her marriage to another man turned rocky. So Crystal said that she was still in love with Frazee, and after a few years, the two reconnected on Facebook. Several years after that, they started talking by phone. And in 2015, Kenny says that she and Patrick Frazee met in person in Colorado, and a year later she discovered she was pregnant with his child, although she still was married to Chad. According to Crystal, she told the court she thought Frazee would be excited about the baby, but instead he was upset, and he said the situation wouldn't look right. Kenny said she aborted the baby, but told Frazee it was a miscarriage. And to be honest, guys, she actually said something else, but it's in a different article. I have to find that for you. I'm going to do that and put that on here before we close out. So I'm going to go ahead and leave some of these tweets and stuff that I found online for you guys to read over if you want to read over them. So according to Crystal, she says she filed for divorce from Chad Lee in 2016, but that the baby had caused a rift between her and Frazee, and the two didn't talk for several months. So let's talk about that too, guys. So you can see here he has this control thing that he has going. He's punishing her. He knows that he has full control of this woman, and no matter what he does, he can still have her run back to him. It's at this point that you start to see Crystal mention Kelsey Berreth again. So she says that when she goes to Colorado with Frazee, she says he did not mention Kelsey Berreth or their daughter. According to Crystal, she says she didn't learn about Patrick, that Patrick was a father, until she spent some time with a mutual friend. I would love to know who that mutual friend is. So here she is. She's a woman who is in love with this cowboy in Colorado who lives with his mother still. I don't get this. And they have this fling together. He treats her terribly. She leaves him. She gets married to Chad. And for some reason, she seeks Frazee still. They kind of reconnect. He gets her to get a divorce. According to her, in some articles, that's what they're saying. And of course, we won't know until we get everything. And that's going to be after the trial. But she does this. She draws up divorce papers to divorce her husband. We know that she was living with him with her 2 children at the time of Kelsey Berreth's disappearance. What else did she do for love of Patrick Frazee? And this is why, if they did, charge her with Kelsey Berreth's disappearance or anything else, for some reason the law kind of protects women in a lot of cases. It would be second degree. It definitely wouldn't be capital. But still, this woman, what she did for him was first plot to kill Kelsey Berreth with Patrick Frazee, not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times, but almost, there's people saying possibly even 4 times. So she had the poisoning of the coffee, the metal pipe, and then what some of the articles are leaving out is the bat. That's 3 plots to take the life of this 29-year-old mother that she didn't follow through on. The things that some people say, we heard the attorneys say at the beginning of this case, the Rockstars say, the things people do for love. And let me tell you guys something. I don't care how much I love somebody. There's no way in the world could somebody control me like this. And at some point, you need to start setting an example with these weak individuals. Because truly, they are horrible examples to our community, our society, everything. I mean, how much more are we going to put up with before we start sending the message that this is not acceptable? Our laws are too lenient, and it's because of other people who feel sorry for the criminals. You got people like Kanye West and that bunch, Beyonce, all of them that are always, they spend their life fighting for people who are behind bars versus the people that are out there working their ass off, trying to make a living and scraping by. That's the mentality of our society today. I'm sorry guys, I'm having trouble talking today, and I think it's because it's so early. I wanted to get this finished. Our world has forgotten what true struggles are, especially our celebrities. They have no clue what their fans endure day in and day out. They have no idea what true struggle is. And so this has had a negative impact on our society and our laws. So they're fighting for these people behind the bars, or people that are, about to go behind bars. What about Kelsey Berreth? What about their daughter? What about their family? Do they even matter? Anyways, guys, that's a story for another day. Okay, so back on the subject, I found that article I told you I would share. I'm going to posted on here as well. So Lee also detailed in tear-filled account of how she became pregnant, and Frazee asked her if she, quote, was a baby killer or not, end quote. Lee testified that she terminated the pregnancy. So if this is true, a true account of what truly happened, this is just another level that he is manipulating this girl in a sick manner, and it seems like it's something he gets off on. And that brings us into some of the cases that we cover, that I talk about the violent porn and things like that. This is what I'm thinking. He likes to manipulate and torture women mentally and possibly even physically. And we will never know that truth until the women come forward and tell us what really happened during their relationships with Patrick Frazee. I think this is because these women are weak, and they too did things that are unspeakable in order to please him. And that is speculation, guys. That's my look on what I'm seeing and what I'm learning from this case. And guys, these are not just women who have nothing going for them. I mean, she was a rodeo queen. Crystal was. She was a nurse, so she was pretty successful. She wasn't all, I mean, she was decently attractive. She had blonde hair. And then you had Kelsey Berreth. She was absolutely beautiful inside and out. She was a pilot. I mean, these are successful women. Why in the world did they attract to something like this? Although they seem to be independent and strong, behind closed doors, these women are seeking people that are taking advantage of them and manipulating them. I think that's what gets me the most, is these women had everything going for them. And I remember one of Crystal Lee Kenny's friends saying she had it all. She had it all. And she did, but she didn't realize it. She just wasn't happy with what she had. So anyways, guys, so what we're going to be hearing today, Thursday, we should be hearing details of, she's going to probably share more details of what she's seen. And it's probably going to go into the part where, Kelsey was disposed of. So I want to go over this real quick. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. So here are some of the text messages, and also the phone mapping, basically, of what went on during this time. So on Frazee's phone, he has a call at 8 a.m., a call to Berreth. At 8:10 a.m., a call to Berreth. And 8:59, a call to Berreth. So this is on November 21st of 2018. I'm sorry, I couldn't get a better image of it. So on November 22nd at 12:19 p.m. to 12:28 p.m., both phones, Berreth and Frazee's, are traveling back north away from Cripple Creek. So we know on the 21st, she went with Patrick Frazee to check on cattle. So on November 22nd at 1:20 p.m., the phone activity ends, and then you have the 1:42 p.m. signal, and then the 3:34 p.m. Berreth's phone resumes activity with Frazee's phone. So I think the majority of the investigating, they believe that whatever happened to her happened in between 1 and 3:30. So I added these images from an article. I need to find out who did this, and so that you guys can look through it. So approximately, on November 22nd, Crystal Lee gets a phone call at 7:30 p.m. From Frazee's cell phone. And then an 8:29 p.m. incoming call to Frazee's landline. And that conversation lasts about 47 minutes, guys. So, and then I guess text messages at 9:45. So later that night at 10:22 p.m., both Frazee and Berreth's phones appeared to be traveling west away from Cripple Creek towards Nash Ranch. Let me remind you guys that's where that they stashed her for a period of time. So, and then at 10:48 p.m., Berreth's phone moved, and at 11:08, Berreth's phone had activity heading north towards so it's another direction. Guys, I really want the details on when, where, and when again, and who. And I'm just not getting those dates I was hoping we would see during this trial. And I hope if media is watching this, we need dates and times. Alright guys, I hit my max. I have to end abruptly. I want to say I love you guys. Thanks for watching. We're sending out our love to the Berreth family. And be watching for part 4.